Hey YouTube, thanks for tuning in to my channel called Stories with Lonnie. Today I would like to tell a little story. I would like to talk about a time when I was in high school and I was in a relationship, and it had gotten to the point where it was almost a abusive relationship. And I know that there are a lot of women and men who are in abusive relationships and they just don't know like what to do, or they're blinded by love, so they think that the person's going to change, or that they don't mean it when they hit them or verbally abuse them. Any type of abuse is never okay. If someone really loves you, they would never do anything to hurt you. And especially they wouldn't do it over and over and over again. When I was in high school, I was in 12th grade, right? And I was dating this guy who, he was really sweet. He was very like smiley all the time, and I was in JROTC and he was in JRTC, and I just thought he was like an overall good guy. Always made me laugh and all the good stuff. So then me and him, we started dating, and when we were dating, at first everything was fine, but then like I noticed that like as we were, as the relationship progressed, it just got worse, so like he would do crazy things. Like one time he kept texting somebody, like some ninth grader, and we're in 12th grade, so alone I just thought that was kind of fishy, so I was like, hey, like I don't feel comfortable with you texting this little girl, can we not do that? And he was like, yeah, I get it, I understand. And all he did was change the name of the girl and, had it under a different name. And me, I just had like a bad feeling. So I did what every woman, no, not every woman does, but when you have a bad, like a woman's intuition, then you follow it. So I ended up looking at his phone while he was asleep, and I found out. So then I woke him up, while he was sleeping, tapping on his shoulder like, excuse me, what's this? And he basically tried flipping it around, and it was like, oh, you don't want me texting her, you don't want me texting her. Then he took his phone and put it on like the bed rail, of his bed, and he grabbed like a hammer and he's like, then smash it, smash it. And I'm like, no, like it went from like 0 to 60 like that quick. And then he was like talking about throwing his phone out the window, and then like that was like I think the breaking point, because like before then he would do like little things like we would be laying down, and if we got into an argument or something, then he would like act like he was cutting himself, and like the lights would be off because it would be like, arguing with each other, and we're like, let's just go to bed or whatever. So then we'd turn the lights off, and then I would hear him make sounds like ah, ew, like he was hurting himself, so then I would get up and panic because, of course, self-harm, is not okay. So, I wanted to check on him, make sure that he wasn't hurting himself. But then like when I would turn the lights on, there would be no marks, he would just have like one of those little like Swiss blades or whatever. I don't know, switchblades, I don't know what they're called, but those little pocket knives. But there would be no marks. So I felt like he was kind of like playing with my emotions and like playing some type of game where I don't know what his problem was or what he was trying to get out of it. But, I still like stayed, and like throughout the relationship, I noticed, because I had never been that kind of person that would just allow myself to be in a relationship where it was kind of negative. Like if we got into arguments, if I was sitting on the bed and we're arguing, he would start yelling at me, and then he would like literally push his forehead against my forehead until my head was like back against the wall, and that's how he would speak to me this close. So like I knew it wasn't the best of a relationship, and I knew that eventually it would get to the point where he would actually eventually lift his hand up and hit me, so like I would like talk to my mom and my stepdad at the time about it, and because I felt like I didn't like what the relationship was doing to me. I felt like it was like taking me out of my element and making me someone that I wasn't, and I was just very unhappy with it. And I would sometimes cry because I felt like I didn't understand like how I got myself into a situation like this. So yeah, but so all those things would happen, different things. He would like say random stuff that just didn't seem right, or when one time we had gotten to that argument about the phone and the texting or whatever, and like I had ran downstairs to go home or whatever, and he of course was trying to stop me, and like he said something. I'm like, no, this is it, I'm done, it's over. And then he like looked at me, and then he spit, and when he spit, it hit me on my arm, so like that was the ultimate disrespect. And then he was like, that's what you are. So I was like, like really, like spitting on someone, that's foul. So I don't know if he meant to spit specifically on me. Maybe it was like next to me to try to make a statement because he was pretty dramatic, or if he was actually aiming for me. But regardless if he did it on purpose or not, it still hit me. So that was like the last straw. So after that, I broke up with him. Then I went home, and I guess, he kept calling me, and he was saying that he was going to bring my things to my house, so he wouldn't have any of my things at his house anymore, which made sense, if we're not together, okay. But then he ended up coming. At the time I lived like in an apartment complex, and he came, and I guess I grabbed my things, and then I ended up going somewhere else with like my mom and my stepdad. And I think he came back like later that day, and while I was out, but my uncle was there, and my uncle, like, he knocked on the door, and my uncle answered it, not expecting, not really know what's going on or anything. And he was just calling my name, like shouting my name out. My uncle's like, she's not here, she's not here. He's trying to hold the door, and he was trying to push the door open, like looking for me. And he's like, he's not here. I mean, she's not here, she's not here. So then he ended up, I guess, like leaving, like going outside of the building. And my car at the time, I had like a Honda that had a sunroof on it. And that man, well, that boy, he was a teenager, freaking stomped on my sunroof. So he went out there, jumped on top of my car, my Honda car, and started stomping my sunroof. So then I guess he ran away, and then I ended up coming. My uncle called, and he's like, hey, your boyfriend or your ex-boyfriend, whoever he is, he's out here stomping on your car, you need to come home. So we ended up coming home, and when we got there, he wasn't there. So I'm looking at my car like, oh my gosh, like you could definitely tell, that he got stomped on. And I'm upset about it, and I'm crying, and it's just like horrible. And I can't believe that someone that says that they care about me so much would do something like that. And then like my mom, she's like, no, I'm gonna call the police. I'm like, no, like we don't want to, like, even though he is acting out and he did something that is bad, we don't want this to affect like the rest of his life, get him like a criminal record. We don't want nothing like that, no charges. So then she's like, well, it's that car's under my name, I paid for that car, da da da. So she ends up calling the police. So then once the police come, they take pictures and things like that. And then she's like me and my stepdad were talking to my mom, and we're like, hey, like I know he did what he did, but can we not like press charges or anything like that? Because I don't want it to get, like, I don't want the situation to get worse than what it already is. So then she's asked the police officer, like, hey, you know, like, I know we called the police, but, you know, like, is there any way that we don't want him to get in big trouble? And they're like, well, you know, we're already here. We've already witnessed this situation. We've got pictures and all that. So even if you don't press charges, we're going to press charges. You know, like the police would press charges. So that was the last thing that I, you know, heard. So then they ended up like bringing him, like finding him, you know, so because he was not too far, he was walking, you know, so then I had him in the back of a cop car, you know, a police car, and I had to like identify him, and it was like so freaking horrible because it's like, for one, I'm not, you know, a police caller. That's not who I am. And for two, I didn't want to get anybody in trouble to the point where this can affect their, you know, future. So, you know, I feel horrible, and I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, you know, that's him, and I'm upset and I'm crying. And then from there, like, we just chose not to really speak to each other. And that's how that relationship ended. But that was the closest relationship I've ever been in where I, you know, like got so close to being like in a physically abusive relationship. And so just that mental abuse, or, you know, the little bit here and there that happened in that short time of us being together, you know, was horrible. It made me feel bad. So I can't even imagine, you know, someone who continuously, you know, lives every day in a relationship with someone that constantly abuses them. Like, I just don't. You guys are strong and you don't deserve it, and you should definitely get out of it. Do whatever you can. You deserve much more. You deserve someone who's going to love you and respect you, and, you know, accept you for who you are, and just, you deserve much more, okay? So I just wanted to tell you guys that story so you guys can understand that, you know, there are people out there that go through similar situations that you're going through. Maybe not the exact same thing, but you are not alone. You know, I try to be as honest as I can with you guys so that way you guys understand, you know, like, it's hard, you know, the experiences are hard, but, you know, it feels better when you speak your truth. So that's all I try to do on this channel. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any stories you want to talk about that you feel comfortable talking about, then go ahead and comment below.